Today our story takes us to the Isle of Wight, a picturesque island just off England's south coast, more specifically the small harbour town of Cowes. A place with just a few hundred homes, surrounded by the sea on one side and with only a handful of roads leading in and out. It isn't somewhere you'd expect someone to vanish without a trace, but somehow that's exactly what happened. Because on the evening of Saturday the 2nd of November 1996, a 16-year-old lad headed out for what should have been an ordinary night with his friends. However, he was never seen again. His name was Damien Nettles. Damien lived with his mum, Valerie, his dad, Edward, and his sister, Sarah. Standing at around 6'4", he was impossible to miss.
It's not as if he's inconspicuous now, is it?
Like many teenagers growing up in the mid-90s, he loved music. Nirvana was his favourite band, and he was rarely seen without his Doc Marten boots on. Damien was just a normal 16-year-old lad. He enjoyed spending time with his mates, and like any other teenager at that age, he was simply looking forward to a Saturday night out. That evening, Damien's dad gave him a lift to his friend's house, Chris Boone, in East Cowes. The plan couldn't have been more simple. Go to an house party, meet up with a few friends, have a few drinks, then head home later that night. The party was already underway when Damien and Chris arrived. Music filled the house, people were chatting, and the booze was flowing. After spending some time there, the two teenagers decided to head out to buy some cider before continuing their night. As the night went on, Damien and Chris crossed back over to West Cowes on the ferry. The streets were beginning to empty. The pubs were getting ready to close, and for most people, the night was slowly coming to an end. But for Damien, his story was only just beginning. The two friends wandered through the town together, eventually stopping outside Yorkie's, a local fish and chip shop on the high street. CCTV captured Damien walking into the shop. At first, he didn't actually buy anything. Instead, he walked back outside with Chris, and the pair continued to walk through the town. They tried to get in a couple of pubs, but because they were only 16 years old, they weren't allowed in. So they carried on walking. Eventually, Damien and Chris reached Northwood Park, and it was there they decided to split up. Chris headed home. Damien, for some reason, chose to carry on alone. And that would be the last time anyone who knew him would ever see him. What happened next has been pieced together from CCTV footage and the memories of people who crossed paths with him that night. Damien walked back towards Yorkie's. This time, he bought himself a portion of fish and chips. He was seen wandering through the streets, eating as he walked, with his black camera still around his neck. Then the witness statements started to become strange. One witness claimed Damien was seen trying the handles of a parked blue Ford Fiesta, almost as though he believed it was his lift home. Another person later reported seeing him board a local bus, and according to the driver, Damien briefly spoke to him. The driver said he was friendly, but for some reason he stepped back off the bus and simply walked away. Then came perhaps the strangest sighting of all. A man sitting inside his parked car later told police that Damien approached him while eating his chips. He leaned towards the car window, wiped away some of the condensation, looked inside, and quietly said something chilling. "They're watching us." Before the driver could even respond, Damien turned around and walked off into the darkness. Was he drunk, confused, or was something else happening to him that night? When Damien failed to return home that night, alarm bells quickly started ringing. It wasn't like him. His family was close and always kept in close contact. He hadn't packed a bag, he hadn't told anyone he was going away, and he hadn't taken any of his belongings with him. As the hours passed, his family became more and more worried. By the following day, Damien had officially been reported missing. Police began trying to piece together his final movements. Witnesses were interviewed. CCTV was collected. Searches were carried out across Cowes and the surrounding area. But almost immediately, the problems started to emerge. One of the biggest questions investigators faced was Damien's condition that night. Almost everyone that saw him described him as being very drunk. Others believed he may have taken some sort of drugs, or something else may have happened to him. His behaviour certainly seemed unusual. Trying car doors, getting on and off a bus for no obvious reason, and speaking to complete strangers. But despite all of those sightings, nobody reported seeing anyone threaten him or being in a fight or anything like that. Nothing. As police continued searching, another frustrating discovery came to light. Some of the CCTV footage showing Damien's final movements had been lost. The very footage that could have helped investigators reconstruct his last known hours were no longer available. Sadly, that wasn't the only so-called mistake. Over the years, Damien's family discovered that important records connected to the investigation had also disappeared. The original call log made when he was first reported missing could no longer be found. Records showing which officers were on duty that night had also vanished. To make matters worse, Damien, who was only 16 years old at the time, was initially recorded as a missing adult rather than a missing child. It was like someone was purposefully trying to erase every single trace of him. But who? As the weeks turned into months, the searches continued. Police searched land, the sea, the woodlands. They followed countless leads. Not his camera he was holding, not a piece of clothing, not his wallet, absolutely nothing. And as hope slowly began to fade and weeks became into months and months became into years, the rumours started to grow. Rumours that would send the investigation in a completely different direction. One theory is perhaps the most straightforward, that after drinking heavily, Damien accidentally fell into the sea. On the night he disappeared, Damien had been seen walking close to Cowes Harbour. Witnesses described him as confused and heavily intoxicated. Sadly, accidents involving water and alcohol do happen, and quite often. But there's one problem. Many investigators believe that if Damien had entered the water that night, his body would eventually have been recovered. The ties around Cowes had been combed extensively, and several experts reportedly believed it was highly unlikely someone could simply disappear forever without a trace. His mum, Valerie, never accepted the accident theory either. She believed something much darker had happened. And that brings us to the second theory. Over the years, rumours began circling that Damien had become involved with a local drug dealer. One former girlfriend later said he believed that there were parts of Damien's life he hadn't shared with everyone. Nothing was proven, but the rumours refused to go away. Then, years later, an informant came forward with an extraordinary story. The man claimed that the local drug dealer had confessed to him what really happened. According to his account, Damien had become involved in an altercation that night. During the fight, Damien was allegedly struck with a single punch. The informant claimed the blow proved fatal. He then alleged Damien's body was hidden for several weeks before eventually being buried somewhere in the Isle of Wight. It's a shocking story, but police were cautious. They investigated the claims, carried out searches, and even made several arrests. But in the end, they concluded the informant's evidence couldn't be relied upon. No one was ever charged. Another theory suggests Damien may have encountered a predator that night. Police investigated multiple pieces of information over the years, including allegations involving known offenders. But once again, nothing could ever be substantiated. Every possible explanation seemed to reach the exact same dead end. Meanwhile, Damien's family never stopped searching. His mum became increasingly frustrated with what she believed were failures during the original investigation. She questioned why evidence had been lost, why crucial records disappeared, and whether opportunities to find her son had slipped away during those first vital hours. Then, 15 years after Damien vanished, the case suddenly burst back into the headlines. Because police in 2011 carried out a series of dramatic early morning arrests. Acting on fresh information, Hampshire police launched a major operation. 5 men were arrested on suspicion of murder. Homes were searched, land was examined. For the first time in years, there was a genuine hope that Damien's family were finally about to get the answers they wished and waited so long for. But those hopes were unfortunately short-lived. One by one, every suspect was released. No charges were brought. Later that same year, 2 more people were arrested on suspicion of conspiring to murder. Again, after questioning, the 2 were released without charge. Despite all the arrests, the investigation was back where it started, with nothing. No body, no weapon, no explanation, nothing. Even today, investigators haven't ruled out any major possibility. Could Damien have suffered a tragic accident? Did he encounter the wrong people during his walk through cows that night? Unlike many other missing person cases, Damien wasn't seen walking through some remote woodland or climbing a mountain or something like that. He vanished in the middle of a town where people were still awake. Cars were driving past, pubs were open, people were getting ready to go to work. Yet somehow a 6'4" teenager simply vanished without leaving behind a single trace. Very strange indeed. So, what do you think happened to Damien? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this sort of deep dive into Britain's most haunting unsolved disappearances, don't forget to subscribe, because I've got loads of true crime mysteries coming soon. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you. Bye bye.